Welcome to this episode of Auction Watch, the show where we preview some forthcoming property deals available at auctions. In this episode, we're going to look at a corner freehold shop and upper parts in South London. We're going to look at a freehold block of flats in Hendon, which has development potential on the roof. We're going to look at a Domino Pizzas freehold in Chigwell, also with development potential. And we're also going to look at a shop that has development potential at the rear, which is located in Bristol. To help with all this auction analysis, I'm going to be joined, as usual, by guests Piotr Rusinek, Jay Howard, and Rod Turner. So keep watching because you may want to buy one of these bargains. So if you've arrived at this channel for the very first time, my name is Ranjan Bhattacharya. I've been investing and developing properties for the last 30 years. Welcome to this channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we upload, because we put out tons of new property related videos each and every week, all to help you be on top of your property investing game. And be sure to like and tell us what do you think of these deals that we are talking about. Do so in the comments below. So let's get on with it as I get the panel to introduce themselves.
My name is Rod Turner. I am the host of a podcast called The Rodcast, which is all about asset-backed investments with a focus on UK real estate. My background is in development, mostly in London and Manchester, and I own a property investment company, and we buy all sorts of things from commercial and industrial right through to residential developments as well.
Okay, brilliant. And Ranjan?
My name is Ranjan Bhattacharya. I've been investing and developing properties for 30 years. These days focusing much more on commercial property and repurposing defunct commercial properties. You can find me on YouTube. We've got 27,000 subscribers, lots of videos on there. It's Succeed in Property, in case you missed it.
Brilliant. Jay?
Hi everybody, my name's Jay Howard. I'm a property auction expert. I've been buying and selling properties through auction for 12 years, and I worked as the auction manager for a London auction company for 6 years. I like commercial properties, short lease properties, and have recently gained a little bit of a hankering for some ad hoardings. Make of that what you will, but I'm always happy to share.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I've been trading properties for about 10 years in auctions and working with investors on the buying side and the selling side. And at the moment, we've got our venture called Hammered, where we help people maximize the auction sale prices, basically. And that's our job. We're selling 8 properties in the auctions this month. And a couple of those we're going to discuss on this call. So, but let's start. High Street, South Norwood. It's Ranjan's suggestion. Ranjan, do you want to introduce?
Yeah, it's a lovely, cheeky little number, this one. It's in London. It's well located. It's close to the station, Norwood Junction Station, only 300 metres away. Plenty of good stores in proximity. What's up for grabs here is basically the entire freehold. And this could be an interesting opportunity for a breakup. The flats above the shops are all a decent size, actually. And the legal pack doesn't really disclose this yet. Interestingly enough, there are no floor plans in the legal pack. There are no EPCs in the legal pack either. You've just got the site plan. But if you go to the EPC register, you can look at the EPCs for the individual flats above the shops, and they're all about 48 square meters, but they're described as 1 bedroom. So there may be an opportunity to reconfigure them a little bit and sell them on. You'd be hard pushed to get less than 200 grand for a flat in that area. So there is a little bit of a breakup thing here. The other thing I'll emphasize about the commercial space, there's so much doom and gloom about commercial property, and particularly the lettability of it these days. And there's a report out today that 9,000 shops have closed this quarter throughout the UK. And that's what you see in the headlines. But also in that same report commissioned by PwC, they also said that 4,000 shops had opened during this last quarter. So, and this is one of them. And it's a certain type of shop that's closing. It's usually the stuff that's selling products that you could get off in the internet now. And it's a certain type of shop that's opening. And the shops that are opening in areas which have an immediate catchment area of affluent footfall, which this area of South London does, relatively speaking. And also, it's been actually let to a cafe. They're doing a full fit out at the moment and planning to open as a cafe. It's those sort of businesses that need affluent footfall in close proximity, where you can't deliver the services over the internet, that seems to be opening up. So it's an interesting prospect, quite a lot of space there. There's also a little bit of development potential. It'd be very easy to put something on the roof. I love these sort of Victorian buildings where you've got this parapet wall around the outside, because if you were to put an additional floor, you'd never see it from the street scene. So there's very little planners can say about it. So lots of interesting tidbits on this one, and not a bad guide for the yield as it is.
Ranjan loves a corner plot, don't you? You love
Yeah.
Where you get maximum exposure for that part A of the retail, as much window space as you can. But yeah, I think it's a really good buy. Agree with everything you've said, like the development on top. Also, in terms of it's a pretty solid lease as well, no breaks, I think, decent enough yield. And as you said, I mean, 200 grand per flat, I think, is very conservative for that area. So yeah,
yes.
I like it.
I mean, I discounted a bit because it's obviously
you guys think this is conservative, because I keep seeing flats in South Norwood coming to an auction and they struggle to sell for that 170, 150 mark, and it's a bit. I'm not sure.
I think it's dependent on the type of flat. Like you said, it's a good looking building. It's not kind of in a parade, ex-local, things like that. And also, just one point on this, is the picture a CGI or is it an actual picture?
Can we go back to it? Why do you say that?
There you
They
go.
normally do that on new builds.
It looks, the way people are moving, it does look like someone's just created a CGI. Like the block of flats to the rear doesn't look real.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was just wondering if
it's an enhanced ex-council block.
Oh, right. I thought you were going to talk about the weather, because obviously it couldn't be sunshine.
Well, also because I think they said it's under the actual ground floor unit is being refitted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if that is a picture. I think that's more of a CGI show.
I think that is a picture. You can see the sign is the sign of the cafe that's opened up. Okay. In the legal pack, there's a nice license to do all the alterations. It's just boarded up. Yeah. In the legal pack, there's a license to do the alterations, which has been agreed by the landlord, and it shows a good fit out. That's the other thing I look at.
So I would say that picture is definitely enhanced.
Yeah.
It's not real, but it's enhanced.
What you're saying, you spent some money on
that. Listen, that I don't know. They may have enhanced it. But one of the things I look at when you're assessing an incoming commercial tenant is what skin in the game are they putting in. And they seem to be spending a decent amount of money on this fit out, and in terms of the kitchen equipment and all the rest of it, which is money that they're putting in. So they are committed to making this business work, which is an indicator that I look at of a potential commercial tenant.
One of the things that I don't like about those buildings, and they've got those butterfly roofs. I really don't like those butterfly roofs.
Butterfly roofs, as I call them.
Yeah, they go like in to that.
Inverted V, why? Why don't you like them?
Because they just cause all sorts of trouble, and then I don't know how would you change it? How would you like increase the space? That it's just like
they're big opportunities. Yeah. I love butterfly roofs. It's the typical Mary Poppins scene, the chimney. If you remember that movie, where you can dance, you can not only can you do a song and dance number on the roof, but they're very good for adding an extra floor, because if you, because of the outside has got this parapet wall, if you were to recess any extension, loft extension by a meter in from the street, you literally would not see that at all from the street. And that's why they're very, very powerful.
Okay, good to know. I wouldn't have thought so, but good to learn new things. Okay, brilliant. So what would you pay for this, Ranjan?
Well, I think I would be looking at not much over guide, quite frankly, for it to be a good solid deal. You'd want it to yield as it is in excess of 7%, in my view. And then you've got the other stuff as icing on the cake type of opportunities.
Got it. And anyone would pay more?
Possibly. I think you've got to be sure that you're going to get something on that roof, as in another unit, and not just increasing the size of the unit below.
Absolutely.
And if you can, then I'd be looking at, if you're getting a 6% yield and it's cash flowing from day one with the opportunity to uplift there another 200 grand possibly, then I think that looks good. But again, it's doing your homework and making sure that the sizes add up and things like that. So I can see someone paying more for that.
It's unlikely you'd get planning permission for a separate flat on the roof.
I think
it wouldn't come if you recess, because the top floor flat, which I've checked out, is 48 square meters. So you wouldn't make a London plan flat on the top if you have to recess the sides by a meter. So it'll have to be an extension to the existing flat, which may or may not be worthwhile depending on the numbers. But I think money can be made simply by reconfiguring the existing floor space, because I think 48 square meters per one bedroom flat is quite generous.
Yeah. Okay. That wasn't it's generous for one bedroom, but yeah.
Maybe that's indicative of the kind of properties I develop.
From Ranjan.
Well, these are no improvement, Ranjan. These ones have windows.
I've always given them windows, and Windows 10.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, let's move to the next lot. So this one is in Watford. So that's Rod's lot. Rod, do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, sure. So this one is a block of, I think is it 9 flats or 6 flats?
9.
No, 10 flats.
Oh, no.
No, it's 14 flats.
That's it, 14 flats.
Total, with planning for another 9.
And it's got planning for 9. All the flats, the existing ones, are sold off on long leases, but 6 of them have 54 years left, and then 4 of them have 85 years left. So you're getting ground rent for that, but it's also got the planning permission for 9 new build flats as well. So there's a few different angles here. Obviously, there's the development potential, making money off those 9 new builds, but there's also as well on the rent from the ground rent, but increasing these leases, because a lot of them are coming up for renewals. Well, you would have thought are kind of almost past that point. And those are starting to get quite valuable. 54 years left on a lease on a flat is a significant amount.
That would be about 30k to minimum to extend.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at what the ground rents are and things like that. Yeah. And again, on the 85 years, I mean, getting a mortgage on anything sort of under 80 years is pretty difficult. So you're not long in the tooth there, and I'd be expecting people to be renewing those leases as well. I'd want to have a look at who actually owns those flats. Again, those existing ones, is it the council maybe, and trying to have an idea of why it is that, I'd imagine it's the same owner that owns the ones that haven't been renewed for 54 years, and I'd imagine it's the same owner for the other 4 as well.
Yeah.
And also there's 4 others which I'd imagine have got separate owners that have been renewed because they haven't really been mentioned there. So it'd be interesting to have a quick look on LandReg just to work out who they are. and maybe even contacting them to find out what it is that they're looking to do with those flats. They're also the 9 flats that have got planning are 1 beds with a study. Now, what that really means is it's well, essentially it will fit 2 beds, but for planning reasons they can't put that in as a 2nd bedroom because of the size of the flat. So again, opportunity in that as well, depending on how you're dressing them up to sell or to rent. There's certainly opportunity there. So I think there's a few different angles here, and I just quite like the look of this one. It was something slightly different to talk about, I suppose, with renewal of ground rent and also a development angle too.
Yeah.
And sorry, the other option, of course, would be to take back the existing flats and reconfigure them. So to almost buy them back off the leaseholders and look at doing extra units there. So I think there's a few different angles.
Brilliant. I think there's a few things that jump out to me like straight away when I looked at this property. Number one, it's kind of squeezed into between M1 and A41, and it's kind of not the most desirable location. I mean, it's got good transport links, but a bit too good.
Great for commuters.
Definitely great for commuters. And another thing concerns me is that the planning that is there is actually for another floor, basically above the whole block. So let me just do the gallery. So basically, we have to do the whole roof. And on our auction buyers club call a couple of weeks ago, we had a whole review about what legal issues come up when you want to do something like that above a block of flat that already has got leases in place. Mm-hmm. And the major things that come up with this is all those leases will have there's few different things that come up, but one of the major ones that it's very difficult to overcome is that all the leases in place, even if they have 40 years to expire and stuff, they have the right to the covenant for quiet enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing the roof, if you're taking off the roof in order to develop it, that's going to have a massive impact on the quiet enjoyment. And if you have a block that's broken up into pieces and there's lots of different leaseholders, that could cause issues.
I think what it means is it's going to increase the cost of the build because you'd have to take that into consideration. If it was obviously an empty block, you'd be whipping off the roof and doing what you can do. But actually what you need to do is soundproof that first before then going on to doing the build. So it's going to be quite an increase on the build cost to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually a mix of what you had said in the first instance, in order to really kind of realise and add the value to this, you're probably going to have to try and negotiate back the leaseholds, and then do a full redevelopment. I think
I think that offers the most uplift for the whole scheme. Yeah. But it's whether or not it depends, and that's why finding out who the leaseholders are is quite key. And I don't think you've got 14 separate leaseholders here. I think by the looks of how the lease is structured, you've probably got at least two owning 10 of them.
Yeah.
That is good.
How have you demised that?
Because they've all got the same leases.
Oh, I see.
When they were renewed in length.
Okay.
But again, it's a guess. I haven't looked at them on land rent or anything.
Normally, when you're dealing with existing buildings and you want to put a roof on, I mean, I'm involved in one of them at the moment. It's a share freehold. I'm one of the share freeholders, and we're doing a JV with the developer who's putting extra floor on top. But the issue is all about basically bribery. You know, you can normally buy them off by offering them something that they want, and what they usually will want is a extension up to a normal lease length, and also some lowering of service charge. I mean, a big incentive is that, well, you've got all these extra people in to contribute to the service charge element, and another thing is to carry out improvements to the communal parts of the building. A package of those sort of measures usually makes people more amenable.
Well, that is interesting.
Is running up for repairs. If the building is due for repairs, I mean, we've done this with smaller buildings where there've been 4 flats, and we wanted to put a loft. We wanted to go into the loft, and we always say to them, look, we're doing the roof anyway, so you don't have to touch the roof. We'll renew all the gutter pipes, and we'll renew the entrance door, and all of this sort of stuff. So we put in a bunch of works, which essentially they don't have to pay for, and we're covering as bribery for letting us do what we're doing. So that usually works.
And also the cost of doing that once you've got people on site is going to be a hell of a lot lower than what it would
exactly
for their service charge. So it's a win-win really for both sides.
Yeah, so I think with this lot, it's not just a calculation of the GDV and the normal £120 per square foot cost and stuff. There's a lot of details that go into the assessment of this project, and I think this is going to be purchased probably by someone who is kind of a long-term kind of landlord or long-term.
I would imagine it's one of those people who owns maybe the 4 or the 6 leaseholds already would certainly be looking at it, or would be looking to JV with someone doing it because they stand to benefit in probably more than anyone else, really, don't they?
And that's what's so good about auctions, because you've got those natural buyers for this property. Well, when you put it on the market, then there's like a variety of different people that are going to look at it, and you almost like encourage those leaseholders to like, okay, now is the time. You're either doing it now or you're probably never ever going to do it, and you have to pay 200k for these extensions in the future. So it's a good incentive program for the existing leaseholders.
I think if the right freeholder buys this, I think the development will become viable. I think if you're not a practiced freeholder and you don't know how to incentivize in the right kind of way, then I think you're gonna hit a wall. I think a party wall act of a whole hell of issues if you don't work it properly.
Absolutely.
I think the benefit you have is that there are short leases already, so there is something that you can offer on the table which is very valuable to these leaseholders as well. So that's where the development can come into its own. And also it's 7 on the top, and it's also 2 of the new ones will be a new build on the rear or the side, I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your guess? Guide price 600.
Goodness. I mean, I think. Are you asking what do I think it will sell for, or what would I pay for it? Because then
give us the 2 prices.
Well, again, I don't think I probably wouldn't go for this, because for me it's too many moving parts that are out of my control.
Yeah.
But I do think for the right person, like we've talked about, they could be looking to go a little bit over guide price, but I wouldn't be expecting it to be going over 700 grand.
Yeah, likewise. Well, let's see. It's quite an affluent area, and a chunky block like that might be of interest to a lot of people.
And there's a solid buying community in that Hendon and surrounding area. But to be honest, I think it misses the mark for the long play freehold ground rent investor because of the price. And I think because of the existing leaseholders, I think that will put off quite a few of the developer types.
Again, I haven't actually checked the legal pack, but if I was the seller, I'd be looking to get this signed off with all the leaseholders and then put it into auction, because I think that's you're losing a lot of potential buyers.
Absolutely.
So I think that could be useful. I don't know. They may have already done it, but I haven't actually had a look.
I think this is this is going to be picked up by someone who's connected with the site. I think the extra floors on buildings are all very well, but they're far easier to do on a flat roof. This sort of 1930s or 1940s pitched roof is a lot more difficult. A lot more.
So it is. I'm finding it very intriguing because I like those kind of roofs instead of the butterflies. You like the butterfly, but you don't like this one. What's going on, Ranjan?
No, it's all you buy that one, you've got the place, and you can have it vacant and then do the works. The problem I fear with this sort of thing is that, as Rod rightly says, it's very important to find out who's living there and who the leaseholders are, because a lot of the time you get with these leases which are short, you tend to get older folk in them, and a 75-year-old lady does not really want all this stuff going on, no matter what inducement is on offer. So it's very, very important to find out who's in these blocks.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Let's move to the next one. It's a change of scenery, a little bit of a commercial property. Jay, this is your one. Do you want to just introduce it for the podcast people?
Absolutely. So this is 1 and 1A Brook Parade in High Road, Chigwell. That's Essex IG7. It's a freehold retail investment with potential, and that includes a shop on the ground floor, which is let and guaranteed by Domino's Pizza until 2038 with no breaks. And the upper floors are sold off with leases of 77 years, unexpired. There are no arrears. There is a large rear yard, which is spoiling for development. And there is obviously a bit of a flat roof with a slight parapet, which could do with an additional floor if you could get back the leases or do anything phantasmical. So what's everyone's views on this one?
I looked at this lot, and what intrigues me a lot is how come Domino's Pizza has been so generous with this lease, because they took on this property in 2018, 2 years ago, and exactly 2 years ago, almost 2 years and 1 month, they're paying £33,000 per annum and they've got another 18 years left on the lease, and they haven't even started operations after 2 years, and the shop is still empty.
I mean, talk about a net yield.
Yes, I mean, Domino Pizzas are one of the good guys that are out there in terms of the commercial property tenant market. That did concern me, actually. Why haven't they started their fit out? Because they tend to have to put in a lot of money into fitting out one of those Domino Pizzas places. But Domino Pizzas are quite different from many of the other companies. Some of the other commercial tenants, they operate propco-opco structures, so that they basically have a trading business. I don't want to name any because I don't want to sort of get hassle from anyone, but they have a trading.
Do they serve coffee?
And they have a property business which rents all the properties from the landlords.
Perhaps sandwiches.
So they can close the property business at any time. With DP Reality, your lease is directly with the trading entity. So you've leased directly to the entity that operates Domino Pizzas, and they tended to sign up for 20-year leases with no break clause, because for their business model that adds value to that lease. I haven't got really time to sort of go into why, but it just does. So the issue here is, why haven't they fitted this out? They're stuck with that lease until 2038, and the only way out is to close down Domino Pizzas. But why haven't they fitted this out? Because it seems a nice site in a good area. That would be.
It's a good corner plot. You love a good corner plot.
Yeah, I do.
With a parapet too. I think one benefit here is, obviously it's been going 2 years and there being no arrears is quite a useful point to make, because especially with some of these bigger companies, as Ranjan's kind of been alluding to, is some of them have not been very good, even though their balance sheets can afford it, at paying their rent through COVID. And as Ranjan was kind of talking, this is about who is securitizing that income, and it's quite a solid covenant there. Trying to look at what the risk could be in that lease. I can't spot many, and it looks like they're just trying to get whoever the owner is knows something that we don't, and is trying to get shot of it. But it's, what is it that they know? that we don't understand? And is it something that they're going to decide to renegotiate on their lease, or can somehow wiggle out of that? Again, without reading the lease kind of in detail, you don't know. But that does concern me, with it being empty, and why it's going into auction, because for me that looks like it's a solid property.
I mean, would you let them buy themselves out of that 20-year lease and then relet it?
It depends if I had planning on the property for the uppers and to do that.
Actually, the uppers are
on 77-year leases, so they're sold off.
Yeah, but I'd want to do something on that roof.
On the roof, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The roof is up for grabs. I think the interesting thing about this, if I was looking at this, I'd want to find out the history and why Domino's haven't kitted out that shop. So the first thing I'd be doing is going to my Google Street View and using the options so you can look back in time and I'd be looking for commercial boards on that property in the last few years, and I'd be ringing those up and finding the history of that, because someone has leased that property to DP Reality and they will know why they haven't occupied. Once I've answered that question, if it's just a case of the refit starting next month, because I know Domino Pizzas are actually looking to expand. They're actually looking for about 50 stores over the next year. So why haven't they fitted out this one in a great location? Just need to find out why that is. It might be something simple. They're waiting for some planning permission for some big flue at the back for all the waste smoke or whatever it is. I mean, you just don't know. But
yeah,
I think when I look back on Street View, it's pretty much been empty since the bank closed. So it's been empty for like 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So, but you're right. To definitely look at. Yeah. Definitely look to see who the commercial agent was and give them a call. That's a brilliant bit of advice.
Okay, sounds good. Well, this one, I think it's very difficult to guess what it might go for. It's everyone likes a bit of a 5% yield on a good commercial, solid income with a bit of potential, but I don't think it's going to go for much above the guide price on this one.
I'd still personally go for this. I think whatever the issue is, it's fixable. The site is in a good location. You know, again, close to local transport links. There are a couple of different things that you could do and play around with. I think there's good value in this.
The other interesting thing is, you know, with the rooftop development, because it's a corner plot and there's plenty of access to the side, you could get rooftop access without impinging on the existing upper floor flats. Which is a rare opportunity. You can't really exploit those opportunities with mid-terrace properties. You've got to kind of own an internal way up.
Yeah. Okay, good. Next one is let me just open it up. So this one is a property we're actually selling as with joint agents, Hamid, and we're selling this on behalf of our client. And this is a property in Bristol, and it's actually a freehold property with a commercial shop and a flat sold off on a lease. And basically, here's a better picture of this property. So this is what this is. It's a whole freehold with the flat sold off, so the upper 2 floors are sold off. But it's got all this real space, which currently it's all a commercial property with like a little garage at the bottom of or at the top of this picture. And all the neighbors pretty much have got those massive extensions. This is a Muse house, and I think there's another flat in there as well. There are 3 flats in this bit over there, and this one, it's pretty much a virgin property, and I think there's a lot of development potential. It's priced as a commercial. If you relet it at about 12,000-13,000 pounds per annum, you're gonna get your 10% on guide. But I think the real money is in the development and in what someone can do with that real site. And Ranjan, you are the expert in real extensions and all sorts of funny things being done to commercial property. What would you do with this one?
What's the access?
The access
Through the rear.
access is from the rear. There's a service road in here, so all those properties access the rear extensions from the service road.
Yeah.
And there's like a little pathway. So each property, you can see there's a pathway here that leads to the upper flats. So the upper flat here, this one actually has been split into 2 flats, and there are access for this rear.
Yeah. So there's nothing at the rear at the moment. So the picture on the little picture on the bottom.
There is a little garage. This is the picture. So this is the shop all the way there, and this is like a little
bottom of the screen. The bottom right.
The bottom right. This one.
Yeah.
This is the CGI.
You can see the little garage that's up there.
Yeah, this is CGI. So this white building, it's a computer-generated picture of what might be possible.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So in here there is, I don't think we've got a real picture up here yet.
Yeah.
But it will come. So basically, at the moment, there's a garage. That's and
with this sort of opportunity, there's no permitted development. It's under full planning. But the thing is, as precedent, it's the only one that hasn't been done. So it's pretty clear cut. So I think they're selling this as though planning is already in the bag. It's just a formality. It's never as simple as that, but it's highly unlikely to get resisted to build some sort of two-floor structure there. And the other thing I love about this sort of thing is that you don't really want to be when you've got one of these rear passages, you don't really want to be the first one to put a residential unit there, because anyone who lives there will be going past all the commercial bins and all the rest of it, and it won't really feel like a residential street. Whereas this one, it's already established as a residential kind of area. And you're just infilling the last hole in the rear. I think I'll stop.
So the only thing that concerns me on this is I'd want to have a look at those other ones that have been converted to residential and just check how they were done, whether it was done through permitted development, because I'd be very concerned if that was the case, that they were done through permitted development from existing buildings, and especially with what's going on at the moment with space standards and things like that. That would be my kind of main concern as to, although there might be 2 or 3 flats in one of the others, well, what is it that you're trying to get? And are people expecting to get a similar amount of units? Because maybe it could be the case that can't be done now. But I'm, with Ranjan on the fact there's definitely a structure you can put up there. And I don't think there's any issue with it being residential. It's just how many units and the size of it that I think is going to be what's called into question there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, what does the lease on the shop say? Does it own that whole area? And what's your agreement?
Yes. So actually, the lease, the shop is just being vacated by the current owner. It's a retirement exit. So the shop's just basically being packed up and it's going to be vacant.
Okay.
But
I think that the potential there is like you will say, it's the fact that you can go for the full planning application, and I think that there's some permitted development rights because this is an A1 shop. So you would be able to get something under permitted development. It would not be ideal for the scheme, but I think that gives people the fallback position, so they can use that in the full planning application where they can maximize the value of the site. And I think that's the real value in this site.